Hey, welcome back to Zeitgeist. I'm Zuri, that's Alistair, and today we're covering a story that almost nobody is talking about.
And honestly, the fact that it's not everywhere right now is kind of wild.
So while the United States is ramping up what's being called the largest deportation operation in its history, Spain just went in the complete opposite direction. The Spanish government approved a plan to legalize roughly 500,000 undocumented immigrants. Full legal status, work permits, healthcare, social security, the works.
500,000 people? That's a huge number. When does this actually happen?
Applications open in April and run through June 30th. To qualify, you need to have been living in Spain for at least 5 months before December 31st, 2025, and you need a clean criminal record. That's it. No employer sponsorship required like the 2005 amnesty. You just prove you've been there, pass the background check, and you're in.
Wait, Spain's done this before?
Yeah. Back in 2005, they regularized about 700,000 people. That one required employers to sponsor workers, which actually led to some exploitation. There were reports of employers charging migrants thousands of euros just for the paperwork. This time, they removed that middleman entirely.
So what's the government's reasoning here? Why do this now?
Economics. Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, has been pretty blunt about it. His exact framing was, Spain has to choose between being an open and prosperous country or a closed-off, poor country. And there's actually data backing him up.
What does the data show?
Spain's economy grew 3.2% in 2024. That's faster than the US, faster than Germany, faster than France. The Economist actually named Spain the best-performing economy in the world last year, and a huge part of that growth is being driven by immigration.
How huge are we talking?
2/3 of all new workers added to Spain's workforce between 2019 and 2024 were foreign-born. Foreign workers now make up 14% of everyone paying into Spain's social security system, and Spain contributed about half of the entire Eurozone's growth last year, while only representing 1/10 of its GDP. Those are significant numbers.
Okay, but I'm guessing not everyone in Spain thinks this is a good idea?
Right. So here's where it gets interesting politically. When the Parliament voted on whether to even draft this bill, 310 out of 343 representatives voted yes. The only party that voted against it was Vox, the far-right party. Even the Conservative Popular Party supported moving forward.
That's surprisingly broad support.
It is. Though Vox and critics make arguments that aren't crazy. The main one is the pull factor. If you keep doing amnesties, aren't you essentially telling people, come now, stay under the radar, and eventually you'll get legalized? There's legitimate debate about whether this encourages more illegal immigration down the line.
Did that happen after 2005?
That's the thing. It's genuinely contested. Spain did see continued undocumented migration after 2005, but supporters point out that Spain's population would have actually declined without immigration. Their fertility rate is 1.12 children per woman, way below the 2.1 you need to maintain population. So from their perspective, the question isn't whether to have immigration, it's whether you want those workers above ground paying taxes or underground in an exploitable shadow economy.
Now, you mentioned the US is doing the exact opposite. What's happening there?
So under Trump, ICE and Border Patrol are getting $170 billion in additional funding through 2029. Interior deportations, meaning arrests of people already living in the country, have already exceeded the entire 4-year total under Biden. The administration is planning to expand workplace raids on farms, factories, anywhere that employs undocumented workers.
So you've got these two wealthy democracies looking at basically the same issue and arriving at completely opposite conclusions.
Exactly. And neither side thinks they're being reckless. Spain's government looks at their economic data and says, we need these workers, our population is aging, our birth rate is among the lowest in the world, and keeping people undocumented just creates exploitation and loses us tax revenue. The US approach says, you can't reward breaking the rules. It undermines the entire concept of legal immigration, and border security is a national security issue.
Is Europe generally moving more toward the Spain model or the US model?
Actually, most of Europe is trending toward tougher enforcement. Denmark has basically a zero refugee policy that other countries are copying. The EU is developing rules to send asylum seekers to third countries, so Spain is actually kind of an outlier here, not the European norm.
One thing I'm curious about, when people picture undocumented immigrants in Spain, they probably think of boats crossing the Mediterranean, right?
Yeah, and that's actually a misconception. Only about 6% of Spain's undocumented population came by sea from Africa. The vast majority flew in legally from Latin America and overstayed their visas. Colombia alone accounts for nearly 300,000 people. Peru is about 110,000. Honduras, 90,000. So when we're talking about this amnesty, we're mostly talking about Latin Americans who entered legally and then stayed.
That's completely different from the narrative you usually hear.
It is, and it matters because it changes how you think about the policy. These aren't primarily people who crossed borders illegally. They're people who came through airports, got a stamp in their passport, and then found work and stayed. Spain's approach is essentially saying you're already here, you're already working, let's make it official.
So what happens after someone gets approved? They just get to stay forever.
They get a 1-year renewable residency permit. Kids get 5 years. After that, they have to renew under normal immigration rules, maintain employment, stay out of trouble, the standard stuff. It's not citizenship, it's a path to being documented.
And that 500,000 number, is that everyone, or are there more?
The government says 500,000, but independent estimates from the Funkers think tank put the real number of undocumented people in Spain closer to 840,000. So either not everyone will apply, or the government's estimate is conservative. We'll know more once the application window closes in June.
This is genuinely one of those stories where I can see both sides having a point.
That's what makes it interesting. Spain is betting that their demographic crisis and labour needs outweigh the risks of the pull factor. The US is betting that enforcement and deterrence matter more than the economic costs of mass deportation. Neither country is being stupid about it. They're just starting from different assumptions about what matters most.
And in a few years, we'll probably have real data on which approach worked better.
Hopefully, though defining worked better is going to depend entirely on what you were optimizing for. If Spain's economy keeps growing and their social systems stay funded, they'll call it a success. If their undocumented population doubles, critics will say told you so. Same with the US. If crime goes down and wages go up, enforcement advocates win. If farms can't find workers and prices spike, the other side will point to that. Policy is complicated.
Well, that's the story for now. Big policy decisions happening quietly while everyone's focused elsewhere.
Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, subscribe. We cover the stuff that doesn't always make the front page, but probably should.
See you next time. This is Zeitgeist.